This right here is Car Con Carne. Car Con Carne is a Q101 podcast. I'm James Van Ostel. Car Con Carne is brought to you by Exploding House Printing, based in Hermosa. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, and custom merch for bands and brands. Visit explodinghouseprinting.com for a quote. See everyone they worked with, explodinghouseprinting.com.
It's Car Con Carne. Let's eat in the car. It's Car Con Carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Ostel.
So followers and admirers of post-punk and industrial music are already well aware of my returning guest, Martin Atkins. He was the rhythmic backbone for influential and enjoyably volatile bands like Public Image Ltd, Killing Joke, Ministry. He's also the mastermind behind the industrial collective Pigface and an entrepreneur who has spent decades teaching the world how to actually survive the music business. On Saturday, April 11th, Martin returns to Reggie's for a project that is the most ambitious thing since the last time he was at Reggie's. This time around, he's revisiting the stark, percussive, and at times difficult, that's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Third Public Image Ltd album, The Flowers of Romance. And to celebrate the 45th anniversary of that record, he's assembled a murderer's row of talent, joined by Chris Connelly, Robert Byrne, Leyla Royale, Orville Kline, Alicia Gaines, and Alan Lake, to bring those experimental sounds back to the stage. We are upstairs from the Post-Punk and Industrial Music Museum, which you've created and continue to curate and do remarkable things with. Martin, thank you for letting me into the Airbnb part of the museum, which is lovely, tastefully appointed.
Yeah, it's. I thought by doubling our square feet to 5,000, we'd be set for 5 years of expansion, and the place is almost full already. We've got some spots to fill in, but we need 12,000 square feet, I think.
I mean, on the way to sitting down and setting up, I saw an autographed boot from Peter Hook.
Yeah.
New Order. I mean, just cool stuff everywhere. Like, you've got the microwave over there from Gang of Four.
Yeah, smashed microwave. There's PiL bootlegs, New Order bootlegs in the cassette room.
The cassette room, I saw that, yes.
A typewriter, test pressings, vinyl, turntable. Just, yeah, it's kind of nice up. It's quiet up here, which I like. And people are starting to stay here, enjoy the neighborhood, and hang out downstairs, listen to me blither on for 3.5 hours, and then just hang out up here, maybe read a book, and just chill.
This is a great space. So let's talk about this show, the 45th anniversary of The Flowers of Romance, bringing this album to life. Two words come up when people talk about this Public Image Ltd album, percussion and experimental. This is, this may not have been perhaps a commercial play or a run at the charts from PiL back in the day.
Well, although the Flowers of Romance single was, up until This Is Not a Love Song a few years later, the Flowers of Romance was the highest charting single.
But it doesn't seem like a conspicuously,
No. It seems like a pop song in the middle of the album.
Yes.
But up against other pop songs, it's strange. People would say, the strategy of John and Keith. There's no bass. What was the thought behind the... It's like, well, Jar Wobble left. There wasn't a strategy. Jar Wobble left. I think it was smart not to try and replace him. I think if there had been somebody in the wings, he would have been replaced. But there wasn't anybody in the wings, and Nick Launay and I filled the gap with drums. It just happened.
Culturally, when Jar Wobble left, what did that do to the band?
Well, it's difficult because it's a while ago.
We're talking very early 1980s here.
Yeah. Well, he quit in the middle of 1980, April. He knew when we came to America in April 1980 that he was going to quit. I didn't. We enjoyed having breakfast together, and we were the rhythm section, and read the New York Times review together. Like, how cool was that? To sit in a park. It was like something out of a movie.
Sure.
We played the night before. It was somewhat of a disastrous show, although people loved it and romanticized it immediately. And so we're reading it's like a scene from The Producers where they go and get the New York Times to read the review of the play from the night before at 6 a.m. But so it was tough for me when Wobble quit, you know. We were the rhythm section. It was jaw fucking Wobble, you know. I think John and Keith were very sensitive because it felt like a betrayal to John, you know, and Wobble was a character, a player. He was a player in his own right. You know, he had his own persona. And he named Sid, I think. He gave Sid his name.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that was a blow. And there were just drums, and Flowers of Romance happened.
Lots of drums, really no guitar, or very, very conspicuously hidden guitar on that album.
Well, and no Keith, really. Jaime's hymn is Keith. There's some guitar on, I get these names confused. All my notes are downstairs. Go Back. Da, 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 da. Like insane off time against a strange 11/14 rhythm. But what I would say about Keith at that time, because people assumed that a lot of the textures that Nick Launay and I created were Keith Levene synthesizer genius, and it wasn't. I would say that I knew which room of the townhouse or the Manor Studios Keith had been in because I could see the pattern of the carpet in the side of his face where he collapsed unconscious on the floor. And you know, and I regurgitate that, not to be nasty, but to like, that's a snapshot of my impression of that time. Keith was infatuated with Space Invaders, and not playing guitar. There is a lost track. Well, there's a few lost tracks called Vampire. And I can play it for you if you want downstairs. There's guitar on it. There's synth, bass, guitar, fully formed vocals, and drums and loops. And I don't know why it wasn't put on the album. Maybe Keith was in an anti-guitar phase, or maybe one more guitar track would draw attention to the lack of guitar. I don't know. And it was released on a best of box set. And I didn't listen to it for a few years. I listened to it. It's just my drums. Like, well, why didn't you call me? I've got the fully finished song. There's also a song from This Is What You Want, This Is What You Get, called 1981, which was written in 1981 for the Flowers sessions, which has guitar, and it just wasn't included either.
So when you recreate this album at Reggie's, you've got Robert Byrne on stage, a brilliant guitarist. Mm-hmm. Will he have anything to do?
Yes.
Okay, good. He's a nice guy. I don't want him to sit on the sidelines.
There's tinklings and textures, and then we're also doing "Home Is Where the Heart Is," B-side of the Flowers single, Vampire, and we might throw in a couple of other PiL songs at the end, as we did with the Killing Joke thing. We did 3 or 4 songs at the end as kind of a celebration, like a cover band celebration, you know.
Well, if you're going to do a credible recreation of a band's work, really no better guy to recruit than Chris Connelly. He's got that shit locked down.
Well, and I mean, I've been working with Chris since 1989 for Ministry Cage Tour. And I called Chris earlier this year when I realized, I'm like, here we go with another, felt like an important anniversary. And I think if Chris had said, no, I'm busy, I don't want to do it, but fuck Johnny Rotten, whatever. But Chris said, yeah, if Chris had said, no, I don't think there's any way I would have even attempted to do it. And Chris is really locked in. He's texting me at 5 a.m. Oh, here's a synth patch for this. Like, I'm doing this texture on a lyre. Like, okay, all right. I'm like, how wonderful. How wonderful is that? Yeah.
So what is your relationship, or is there a relationship in the present day with you and John Lydon?
Well, no, it's not good. It was okay after I quit, but as I've said, drummers don't quit singers' bands. If you do, it's a betrayal.
Yes, you become persona non grata.
Yeah, but we were fine for a few years after I quit. I go and see the band. John will put me on the list. I go backstage and say hi. Had some conversations with John through his 60th birthday. I think his manager at the time, Rambo, was very protective. I think mistakenly of John. I think John needs more people in his life saying, what the fuck, dude? The fuck? You know? And it's sad to me that I don't think he has that. So I know the PiL are touring later this year. Leslie Rankine's brother plays bass in PiL, which I think is hilarious. And we're old. I'm 67 in August. So in the same way that I reached out to Jazz for the Extremities.
Jazz from Killing Joke.
Yeah. Not to ask for permission to do it, because I didn't need that, but to be respectful and give him an opportunity if he wished to come over and sing on one song, read a statement that says, Martin Atkins is a wanker, whatever you want to do, you know. I wanted to offer that opportunity. I'm sure I was thinking today about reaching out to John and go, hey, you know, like maybe we could open for one of the PiL shows. I didn't see the Chicago date. I'm suspecting
We're expecting Riot Fest.
Yeah, which is weird because the Pistols are
very weird.
Yeah,
but they could be on separate days. They may never cross paths.
Yeah. Glenn and Paul have and Steve have always been very nice to me. So yes, interesting. Yeah, but God forbid Riot Fest would reach out to Martin Atkins, Pigface, Extremities Project, PiL Project, any fucking project I've ever been involved with, and ask us to fucking play because it's just 3 miles away. But anyway.
I get it. Yeah, I thought it was fair to ask about Lydon because, he is taking PiL on the road, and the timing is just kind of crazy.
Well, and it's also, but I've had one of the things, it's a strange kind of unexpected blessing to sit and go through the Extremities album first, and then go through the Flowers album, because you're just like, fuck off, I did the Extremity, I did this, I did that. But to sit and pull it apart piece by piece and sit with a vocalist going, what the fuck is going on with the fucking, you know, and have, you know, different people go, I'm in. Oh, fuck, hold on. What's going on with, to see the complexity of the Extremities album and bathe in Geordie's guitar work and Jazz's lyrics, almost as a spectator. Like it's something I would suggest for anybody to do, to revisit an album from 30, 40 years ago and sift through it and learn from it. That's how we learn, right? We reflect. And I found it really special, fueling, calming to go and set a cash register on fire underneath the L tracks behind Reggie's where we set.
I think everyone should do that.
Oh, well, but at the same time, I'm thinking, why don't you fucking grow up? You're 66 years old, and what are you going to do now, Martin? You've got 4 kids and a museum. You're going to wheel a cash register out into the street, set it on fire. You fucking idiot. I mean, that's perfectly rational, right? But then 85 people follow us out. We have this cash register fire ceremony. People are crying and hugging. And as I'm dousing this cash register in gasoline, I look up to go, is anybody filming this? And I nearly pissed my pants because 85, every single person is filming it, which was funny. And then the next day, people are like, we need to set fire to cash registers more. We need more of this kind of ceremony. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. It's not imposter syndrome. It's like questioning these things, which for somebody who made a living banging on round objects with wooden sticks, it's kind of, how dare I question the validity of anything, really? So pulling this album apart, I'm starting to think like, okay, I kind of like this. We're down at the museum. We're rehearsing. We'll let some people into dress rehearsal on the 10th. Maybe record that in the round. Go up to Reggie's, do a show, live stream. I love that place. Everybody's so nice. Bobby up there is just really just understanding all of these crazy things we want to do. And, maybe, I don't know what album would be next that I might do this to, but...
Well, you already mentioned it, didn't you?
What?
This is what you want?
Oh, this is what you want. This is what you get.
I mean, that would be the next in line for PiL.
Well, there's Live in Tokyo first, which that does, yeah. But this is the 25th anniversary of the Damage Manual.
How is that possible?
I know. I just found a bunch of unreleased Damage Manual tracks and mixes, and before Connelly joined, my band Brian Brain. As I start to look through this, Brian Brain is the reason I met Trent. Trent came in to play saxophone on a Brian Brain song called Funky Zoo. We played live in Cleveland. That's how I met Trent. Brian Brain is the reason that 4AD exists.
That's bananas.
Yeah, well, and we used to throw bananas at the audience. But Pete, Gus, and Ivo used to work at Rough Trade Records in London. And before we signed to Secret Records, before I joined PiL, I took my demo to them, to Beggar's Banquet, to see if they wanted to sign Brian Brain. And Ivo did, and Pete and Gus didn't. And Ivo really wanted to sign Brian Brain. And it caused Ivo to go, oh, fuck you guys. He got some money and started 4AD. And I didn't know that. Somebody said, hey.
That's amazing.
It's in the 4AD book.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. I'm in this. It's not a looking back. Because
I was going to talk about it. Neither this play, this Flowers of Romance play, or the Killing Joke play feel like a nostalgia trip. I don't know that people are nostalgic for these albums. It's almost like
thanks.
but I mean that in the sense that this is a way to kind of reintroduce these albums to people who may not have been locked into them the first time around.
Well, this has been happening for 2 years. I'm sure I mentioned this to you before. Like 2 years ago, and you would think rationally, the museum would appeal to a smaller and smaller group of older and older people. And that's not the case at all. And it's been very surprising. 2 years ago, this guy came in, my age, with 2 kids. I thought, oh, fuck. These kids are going to hate this. I can make them some hot chocolate. They can sit. Hopefully they've got devices. They can sit down, shut up, because he's going to fucking love this. And Is my swearing okay, by the way?
It always is.
Okay.
That's why I come here.
And it turned out that they dragged him. The kids had dragged him.
That's great.
And that was like, I'm like, oh, that's a weird anomaly. But now it's more the norm. I was up at FedEx yesterday getting some transparencies. And I recognized this kid behind the counter. We talked before. I want to say 22-year-old kid. And I'm like, I didn't know if he'd been to the museum or not. I'm like, oh, I thought, well, when I run in, I'll drop off I've got a Flowers of Romance flyer in the car. He's not going to know. Like, who am I? Like, here's this album from 45 years ago. Like, of course you're not interested. I'm just being polite. Here's a flyer, just to overcome my shyness and have a connection. And this kid's like, oh, banging the door, one of my favorites. I'm like, what? You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that either.
Yeah. So and of course that put a swagger. You're back, Martin. Boom, 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 boom. You're back. Here we go. But now, never mind Flowers of Romance. People come here who are like, yeah, well, I love this museum because I wasn't born.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for them to. When Pretty Hate Machine came out, I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's generations beyond this stuff, you know. So.
But that is a gateway drug for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's been really interesting. So I don't know what the state is, reverie. I just feel remarkably blessed to be in this position. And not for nothing, we're rehearsing downstairs, which transforms the museum to a place where somebody's playing through Paul Raven, Charles Levi, the bass rig from Killing Joke and Pigface. You know, we're rattling the walls. I'm using my Killing Joke, Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, Pigface drum kit downstairs, you know. And yeah, it's been really interesting.
You mentioned banging the door. That song, to me, it's still, you know, listening to Flowers of Romance with fresh ears, it really does sound like it was way ahead of its time sonically. I think more so than most of the songs on the album. That feels like it was beamed in from like 15 years in the future.
Wow. Thank you. I feel Stigmata Ministry vibes. I think that song might have fed into that a bit.
Yeah.
But also in a very casual way, in a casual, accidental way, by means of illustrating a mindset. I'm playing to the ticking of my Mickey Mouse watch from Disneyland and looping a backwards plastic trumpet that plays discs of someone playing trumpet. These are downstairs, by the way. And instead of a hi-hat, I'm using a can of WD-40. So John sees that, and then John comes in with a CO2 fire extinguisher, the beginning of Under the House. A diddly, 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 diddly. So this is post-punk. We're experimenting. You know, the Exploited Punk's Not Dead album hasn't come out yet, but it clearly is. And as much as I love Watty, and we're experimenting. And
isn't that also kind of the textbook definition of industrial? Like taking those sounds from the environment and turning them into music?
I guess, yeah. So it's just interesting. It's just really interesting. And the other thing that the museum has caused me to do is to take people downstairs to the studio. We've upgraded the speakers twice. And then like, oh, fuck, what are we going to play people? So I find all my unreleased PiL, my unreleased Killing Joke. Tom, my engineer, found all my unreleased Skinny Puppy mixes. Then I find my spreadsheets and my notes from the process. So I'm going back to this previous life I had where all I did was sit in the studio and produce and arrange and look and learn and reflect on all of that.
Yeah.
It's What not intended, but what a luxurious phase of my life to be in.
I love that. And thinking about some of the noises on The Flowers of Romance, For Enclosed Walls,
Yeah.
which I think has aged wonderfully well as an album opener, has that ticking sound, that kind of claustrophobic, intense. How that wasn't your Mickey Mouse watch?
That's
what was,
my Mickey Mouse.
Oh,
watch.
that was it. Okay,
That's it. I used to travel with bags of speed, and just we were all out of our minds all the time, and I just used to listen to this watch, like, and you got to remember, we were Public Image Ltd on American Bandstand. We were also children. I was 20 in America for the first time.
So this is PiL's third album, and you were 20 years old.
Yeah, well, I played on Metal Box in
Right.
'79. Wow. And well, I was 20 when I bought my Mickey Mouse watch, and Flowers came out in '81. So, like to be 20 in America, full stop. You know, Telly Savalas, Kojak, Hill Street Blues, well, all these, all these TV shows, Taxi. Like, oh my God, I'm in America. Then to go to Disneyland, hey, go to a baseball game. I used to listen to baseball on my World Service radio and hear these American voices. To be at a baseball game, so we were just children experiencing that, and then to take that and put it into the album,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Staying on the Leyden tip just for a couple more minutes.
yeah.
Commercial aspirations seem to change after this album. I mean, by the end of the 80s, we had Seattle. Disappointed after that. Do you think that was a Leyden move to head towards more pop smart songs, or do you think he was guided in that direction?
Well, so the last album I did, we did Live in Tokyo, and then This Is What You Want, This Is What You Get. And we were about to be dropped by Virgin. So none of the albums sold massively. Metal Box, first edition, Metal Box, second edition, the gatefold version of Metal Box, Paris au Printemps, Flowers of Romance, Live in Tokyo, This Is What You Want. But they were very cheap to make and came out pretty quickly after each other, sometimes 2 in a year. So there was activity and cash flow. We're in New York for 2 years. Nothing's happening except we're spending money. Richard Branson flew to New York to drop us, to fire us. And Bob Miller, our engineer at the time, almost the producer at times, said, well, you could do a love song. So John did be like, well, this is not a love song. So maybe the success of that, having 300 Japanese children singing that song underneath our hotel balconies, 10 sold-out shows in Tokyo, Australia. I mean, that kind of success helps.
And that song, so truly that song is the middle finger, it sounds like, when you listen to it.
Yeah. It's also still the biggest selling single that PiL has. Then
And you have co-writing credit on that.
Yeah. But after, when I quit, Bill Laswell got involved. There was management, Heaven 17's management, Keith Borton, who wonderful person. But you got Heaven 17, Penthouse and Pavement, We Don't Need This Fascist Groove Thing, there's a song. And working with Laswell is very different for John. Next thing you know, Laswell has his tracks. So PiL is not a band anymore. It's John with some people. Jebin and Mark, who we'd auditioned in Los Angeles, came up with some of the songs for that album.
Cassette, CD.
Yeah. Suddenly they're phased out of the picture. I think politically it was expedient for Bill Laswell because Laswell had tracks he'd been working on, as New York producers did back then, with Ginger Baker, a bass player, different people, and he kind of just got John to sing over his tracks.
Interesting.
John presents it as, oh my God, Ginger Baker wants to work with me. And like they're in the studio together. I heard an interview with Ginger Baker where someone's like, so you're working with Johnny Rotten? And Ginger Baker's like, you what? What's happening? And Ginger didn't know. These were finished tracks that Laswell had.
Okay.
That John sang over the top of. And I was
I always thought that was like a strange combination, like two of the most mercurial public figures in music.
I know. And when I found out, I'm like, oh shit, can I have my job back? We'll do to me and Ginger, because I watched Cream as a 10-year-old child,
Sure.
you know. And but I think, you know, after I quit, I don't mean this to sound however it's going to sound, unless you think it sounds good, in which case that was intended. Once I quit, there was no longer anybody who would tell John to fuck off. It was just, you know, John being, I think, a little bit manipulated by people for their purposes. I mean, but I think Album is a great fucking album.
I agree.
May the Road Rise With You. They're on tour with In Excess, opening for the Sugar Cubes. You know, but hello, it's kind of a, you know, celebration of all of that. It was a pretty. I went and saw them a couple of times. Bruce Smith on drums from the pop group and the Slits. Got along great with Bruce. Yeah.
All right, going back to the Flowers of Romance, which again, Reggie's that album will be recreated on stage for the 45th anniversary. You and Chris Connelly in front, and just this amazing lineup.
Alicia Gaines from Ganser on bass. Like, how cool is that?
What a great band.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So do you think appreciation, as we talk about nostalgia, looking back, revisiting this album, do you think appreciation at large has grown through the years since its release? Beyond your appreciation, do you think?
Oh, I don't know that I ever appreciated it. Honestly, like the same with Extremity. So not to keep lumping these two albums together, but I don't know that I'd spent time with track 8 or go back. Those are my drums, but you know, I'm appreciating it more. I'm understanding. Like, it also has this other effect of, like, did you know there's a chapter in Jeff Tweedy's book about the Flowers of Romance?
No.
Well, there is. So, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And he persuaded his parents to buy him the album for Christmas, and it was wrapped and under the tree. And then Christmas at the Tweedy house, bunch of people drinking wine, eating ham, as he describes, and then his dad is like, hey, let's liven this party up. Let's right. Let's put that album on. Here we go. And then, like, his father leapt across the room and it's like a scene out of a movie. Tears the needle off the record, and Jeff still has that album with the scratch all the way across it.
Public Image Ltd, tearing families apart since the early 1980s.
Did you know? You know where the name comes from?
That was the original name for Sex Pistols, right?
Well, it was a band that Sid had with Keith Levene.
Okay.
And the song Belson Was a Gas is a Sex Pistols cover of a Flowers of Romance song. I think Viv from the Slits was also in that. It's just like, how fucking interesting. Justin Pearson sent me this little memory. He's like, oh, I stole that cassette from a store in a shopping mall in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. You know, and it's so, it's also, I don't know how to describe it. By doing the event, and it's a small event, you know, by doing the event, it causes all of these stories to be surfaced or surface themselves, and a bell to be rung.
Yeah.
You know, I like that.
Let's talk about Martin Atkins, the drummer on this album.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Under the House, which, I mean, sounds absolutely tribal when you listen to it. Did you have these drum sounds and approaches in mind before recording, or did a lot of this come out in the studio?
I had nothing in my head when I walked into the studio, and I took a minute just to, because here I go again with Killing Joke and Extremities. We rehearsed for 6 months, and I did my drums for that album in 11 hours because it was just, this is what we're doing. This is the song arrangement, bang, bang, bang. With PiL, the luxury of PiL that John created, which he doesn't get credit for because he's too busy taking credit for stuff he had nothing to do with. What he was a massive part of was using his fame and his leverage to keep at bay the forces of the music business from clouding PiL's improvisational process. And that's true of Metal Box, First Edition, Flowers, everything. So, Four Enclosed Walls, that's how I'd knock on the door. Is Tony there? Can Tony come out and play? Hello, Mrs. Smith, can Tony come out to play? That was the knock. Boom, boom, boom. And it just came out through my foot. Like, okay. And then as I'm playing it, the gaps. And none of this is, as you would imagine, like play the bit. Oh, that's interesting. What if we drop down, come back? These are all first takes. This stuff is all first takes. So under the house, I was just like, it's a triplet rhythm between the bass drum and the floor tom. And I was fascinated with the chieftains. But one of the first things I did with PiL, we played on the Old Grey Whistle Test, a live TV show, which I watched as a child. And I saw Cream and Ginger Baker and the chieftains. And I'm fascinated by the Byrne. And I just puked that rhythm through the drum kit. And these are all, I think there's an overdub at the end to double up the drums, but it's one take. Either myself or Nick Launay had been to Spain on holiday, so there's some flamenco hand claps in there. There's a television on in the studio, so we just put a microphone next to the speaker and from a religious program. And it's just music concrete, as they would say, And
this approach sounds like jazz to me.
Yeah. And whenever you hear John say, stop, start again, like, oh yeah, stop, start again. And you start singing along. Those aren't lyrics. He's telling the engineer in the studio, stop, start again. And when we're at the beginning of Public Image, where he said, hello, that's what he did. That's his mic check. Hello, I say carrot, fish, banana, which wouldn't work on a PiL track. John just says, hello, to make sure the mics work. And all of that stuff is just left on the takes.
I will always think of that whenever I hear the song Public Image from this point forward.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, so again, Reggie's on a Saturday night. It is April 11th. Can you talk about the Ritz Riot show?
Yes, I can. I think, in retrospect, I think this is a reason that I'm so careful with people. Like with Pigface, I didn't get along with Meg Lee Chin for a decade. And as we started to do more Pigface, I've reached out to Meg on set. Anytime we do anything now, I'll reach out to Meg in London to see if she wants to do something, which sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. And that's not for my benefit. That's well, maybe it is for my benefit. But, and me reaching out to Jazz, and I'm about to reach out to John, has to do with that Ritz show. I didn't do the Ritz show. It's the only show I didn't do from 1979 to 1985. I was sitting in my apartment in Willesden Green, London, across from Stiff Little Fingers' apartment. And my phone starts ringing off the fucking, well, not my phone, the pay phone at the bottom of the stairs. I'm like, what's going on? Hey, see you in a couple of days. I'm like, yeah, huh? What? PiL at the... I'm like, oh, I guess they've moved on. and found another drummer. I was fired anyway, but, I thought I would get the call to do that. And I've seen the video footage. There's film footage.
And so for context, the band played behind a curtain?
The video screen.
Okay.
So I moved to New York and they came to the Mud Club and asked me to rejoin a Brian Brain show at the Mud Club in New York. We're doing a cover of Careering. I turn around singing Careering. John's in the front row. And so I end up, we're over at the Loft on 19th Street in New York. The phone's ringing off the hook. It's Michael Alago calling from the Ritz. You motherfuckers, that screen is $23,000, man. Because the screen was destroyed.
Yeah.
It was like, video was a big thing back then. So, and Don Letts was around. Now, Don was just to hang out with us back then. Went on to do Big Audio Dynamite, filmed The Clash. He's an artist and an author in his own right now. But so Don's around. He was filming on stage during the Ritz. And I've seen this footage just once. Jeanette's on stage, Keith's on stage. It was a accidental show. Bow Wow Wow cancelled a 2-night run. I think Michael Alago, who signed Metallica when he was 23, is walking down the street. He used to book the Ritz. Sees Keith, want to do... And you would hope, I would have hoped at that point, Keith's like, oh, fuck, better call Martin. And he didn't. It gives you an idea of Keith and my relationship.
And also you were kids. I mean, the context of this was...
Yeah, we were 21, maybe, yeah. So Keith goes into Manny's Music on 52nd Street. Behind the counter... on a practice pad is Sam Ulano, who's no longer with us. And it's like, hey, you're a drummer. Come and do this thing. Because, like, there you go, Keith. All drummers are not the fucking same, mate. Anyway.
It's like the Brady Bunch. You fit the suit.
Yeah. So the show starts. They're behind the screen in silhouette, which... I guess is the seed for, Pigface shows begin. We're in silhouette behind screens now. It's a very theatrical device, And the Who were there. Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend were there. And the crowd is unsettled and, it's a bubbling anticipation. But everybody starts to get nervous because it seems like, is this it? Fucking it? And Keith points to Sam and it's like, he's doing his thing, hitting the keyboards, hit it. And Sam hits it. He's a jazz drummer for a 52nd Street music store. A skim down diddly bit bit down boo. A scapa dip bit bamboo. Skiddly bing bong by patow. And my recollection is that I see a look across Keith's face, which I think is horror. But I also take it to be like, wah, wah, should have called Martin, and it's like, clearly that's not going to work. And that dissolves after a couple of minutes. The crowd get really upset. Keith puts on Flowers of Romance on the turntable and everybody quiets down. I don't think anybody realizes it's a record.
Oh my God.
Until it skips.
Oh my God.
And people lost their shit. Chairs, they've had enough. And there's a recording. I've got the 7-inch single downstairs. I've got a bootleg tape from the board. And they really do. John and Keith are experts at crowd control when there isn't any. Mm-hmm. Destroy the screen and you destroy yourselves. Oh, what a good one.
Yeah.
That's great. Which is so much better than saying, no, this is worth $20,000. Please don't. Because then people
Yeah,
would.
right.
And destroy the screens and you destroy yourselves. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. But then the screen is destroyed. The whole thing is just chaos. And
this coming from the guy who famously said, you ever get the feeling you've been had?
Right. And this one of my favorite photographs ever is John, Keith, and Jeanette in the limo after this goes down. They kind of escape.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I miss about being in bands with people. They are laughing their fucking heads off, mouths open, gasping for air, just uncontrollably laughing at this thing that this spectacle that they created.
This fuse they lit. Yeah.
But wild. I mean, I think it hurt when I was home knowing, they've moved on, that hurt. But it was kind of sweet when it was like, oh, there you go, a fucking riot, And I mean, playing drums with those guys was not nothing. I mean, it wasn't playing drums. We were jamming. We didn't rehearse. We didn't rehearse before Paris. We didn't rehearse before the American tour. Sometimes a song would be 5 minutes. Sometimes it would be 11 minutes. We were jamming, not just with each other, but because of the volatile situation on stage. Atlanta, here's 50 cops coming into the room. Los Angeles, riot police outside on horseback, on stage, German shepherds on stage in Japan.
Just based on reputation?
Yeah, well, and the state of punk in LA in 1980. It's just insane shit, and John and Keith trying not to be a rock band, so we dismiss the security. I'm like, oh, fuck. Just always constantly trying to be different at the cost of anything sometimes. So we're on stage jamming through the turning on of the fire hoses, invasion of the stage, people stealing the monitors, whatever's going on, trying to save people from being beaten up by the security that did stay. They start freaking out. You see like 14-year-old kids disappearing under the stage and then being like pushed out the side entrance, slightly unconscious, So you got to put a stop to that stuff. So all the time, you're reacting to each other musically, but also to the events around you.
Wow. All right. So Public Image Ltd, The Flowers of Romance, the album recreated, reimagined, being rebuilt on stage at Reggie's on a Saturday night. Chris Connelly taking on I think one of the hardest jobs of the night, taking on vocals for this.
I'm going to disagree. And I think it's inside of him. He bought Flowers when it came out from John Menzies in Edinburgh. And I hear John in Chris. So I see it differently. I think he's one of the only people I would ask to do it. And I think I don't want to say it comes easy to him, but maybe it does because it's inside of him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, who else to ask than one of the most versatile players?
Right.
Period. All right, Martin, I thank you for letting me into your Airbnb home above the museum. I love what you're doing. And earlier in the conversation, you talked about, what the fuck am I doing? I'm in my mid-60s. I think you're doing all the right stuff. Like, you're bringing music forward, and you're also bringing you're catching people up on where it's come from.
Yeah, it has been massively unexpected. Like everything has been unexpected for the last 5 years. Kind of loving it.
And I think maybe this is accurate, maybe it's not. I think that your experience as an instructor has helped you with the museum, like wanting to tell stories and bring people along to where you're at. And yeah, and all these little pieces, like you assume a fan knows this and that. How did Nine Inch Nails get their name? Blah, 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 blah. What about this? What about that? And people don't. And they're amazed by these tiny pieces of trivia. And it's weird how these small pieces of stories are the essence of these really big things that you think,
people around the world know this or that, but it's all these tiny stories that make it real.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.